All right, we're joined by Bob Socci, radio play-by-play voice on 98.5 The Sports Hub of the New England Patriots. And so let's get right to it. Finally, the draft is here. It's taken so long since the end of the season and all the talk about the number 4 pick. Kind of just your general thoughts after listening to Mike Vrabel and reading all kinds of things, hearing all kinds of things about what the Pats might do.
Well, Roche, I think the presumption is that Carter from Penn State, along with Hunter from Colorado, will be off the board by the time the Patriots pick at 4th. And there aren't, it seems, a lot of teams interested, if there aren't any at all, in moving up based on all the reporting the last couple of weeks and what Mike Vrabel told us during the press conference, even though it's a bit early for those conversations to really begin in earnest. For me, I think you look at the Patriots situation. Yeah, they've got a gaping hole at left tackle, and there's a young man at LSU who has played extremely well at that position in the Southeastern Conference, best conference in football, in Will Campbell. A lot of people believe, however, that based on the measurables, he's not fit for tackle, that he's better suited at guard. And who am I to question someone's arm length or the size of their hands? But for me, I think when you look at that position, particularly when you're picking that high in the draft, I want someone who looks like a tackle. Someone who looks like a Nate Solder, Sebastian Vollmer, the tackles in Philadelphia. Now, again, Campbell, by all accounts, is a tremendous player and is a tremendous person in terms of football acumen and football attitude. But for me, for the Patriots, I like Carter, I like Hunter. If they're not there, I think Walker, Jalen Walker from Georgia, the kind of versatility he gives you as a defensive player, somebody that can make plays, can make an impact. And then for me as well, this is kind of crazy. Tom Curran has really been pounding the table for this guy, Tyler Warren out of Penn State, the tight end, because again, I think that's the kind of player who has an opportunity within a few years to be at the top of his position. And I think if you're picking 4th, you want a guy who's going to be among the very best at his spot. And I think for the Patriots with Campbell, if you're taking him at 4th, there is that risk that you're going to wind up playing him at guard, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's probably going to be a long-time guard in the NFL. But again, no guarantees that he's a tackle.
How much do you think will weigh in here with Mike Vrabel when it comes to just seeing him as a player? Patriots fans remember him from what he did in the Patriots uniform to being a coach and just kind of the hands-on kind of guy he wants. How much do you think they look at and say, we want a football player, right? A guy that we know can play and can produce, as opposed to maybe some of the measurables, right? That's kind of when you look at it. He did say there were maybe a handful of guys that could start at left tackle that could, in the first round, that you could get. So maybe it's a different player. How much do you think that's a factor with Mike Vrabel and everyone here with the Patriots front office?
Well, when you talk about that position itself, Mike Vrabel played many years with a left tackle and Matt Light. They were 3-time champions together as Patriots, and Matt Light was a guy who came into the NFL with a lot of questions about whether or not he had arm length that could play tackle, that could be fit for a tackle in the NFL. I think the thing about Mike to me is he was such a versatile player and a smart player. And I think versatility and football intelligence, football IQ, and an attitude that is borne out on the tape when you watch a guy play. And so when I look at a guy like Walker for Georgia, for example, now that's a guy that some people might say he's a bit undersized for that linebacker position, but you can move him around, play him on the edge. You can rush him over the center, for example. You can do some different things with a guy like that. Plays with a tremendous motor. Coming out of that Georgia program under Kirby Smart, you've got to figure that, no pun intended, he's going to be a smart football player. Those Georgia defenders made such an impact in recent years. Look at Philadelphia and the NFL. So for me, I think versatility, that toughness, that attitude, that fits the profile of those Patriots of Mike Vrabel's era, and I think even his Tennessee teams as well when he's the head coach of the Titans.
Well, with that said, what do you want to see them come out with? As guys, we know the holes on this team. We've watched them. We've watched free agency. What would you like to see them come out of this draft with, as far as what they have to take to training camp?
Yeah, Rich, I think that's the thing, too. Like when you talk about the need at left tackle or the need at wide receiver, they still have a lot of needs everywhere, and I think depth is an issue even in some of the positions where it looks like right now they're set for the start of 2025. But when you come out of this draft, you've got to have a group of players from your first pick through your last pick that have an opportunity to help your football team. because what we have seen in recent years has been draft after draft where maybe one or two or none at all have been able to help the Patriots progress, and it's set them back in such a significant way. And they've got a lot to make up for. I think they're improved, no doubt about it, from where they were at the end of last season for a variety of reasons, including in personnel. But in this draft, they've got to start to build the kind of depth we've enjoyed watching for really the better part of the last 2.5 decades, but haven't seen these last few years.
Well, lastly, with that said, this is step one, right? Free agency, this of the whole Mike Vrabel era. How important is it to kind of just set the tone with those players, but also keep in mind that this isn't going to be an easy fix right out of the gate?
No, I think one of the things, too, about Vrabel is he's honest.
Yeah.
And I think he looks at the situation through those eyes that see with clarity. You hear coaches talk about him, guys who've been with him in Tennessee or around him in Cleveland, and they talk about the clarity of vision. And he knows it, and I think that we should also realize, if we don't already, and I think most fans and most media do, that this team is still a long way from being where he wants to take them, where we want to see them go, speaking of a Patriots broadcaster or a Patriots fan. But I think they're closer today than they were, as I mentioned, at the end of last year. And I think out of this draft, they've got a group of players that are going to help them get significantly closer in the next year, the next 2 years, to really be in a position where they can start competing again for Super Bowl championships.
Look forward to it, Sos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roche.
All right, there you go. There's Bob Socci. We're getting ready for the draft. Everybody's ready for the draft. Please get here, draft.